So, presuming that the right was just Looney Tunes, kookball, dummy dum dummos, this was something that MySpace, and then kind of early use of Facebook started to change my point of view. But it was really once I started to, okay, what is this person citing? Because this name, this, that, and the other, this keeps coming up. And so I look into the source and I'm like, this is actually this is an extremely rational source. You know, the case that this person's making is actually very dry. They're using good facts and figures. They're admitting where they didn't have, very a sure purchase on some specific, something specific like some ramification of something. But this is what's really going on. They say, it would seem as if you were to think, that this or that party involved would profit in this or that way, this could be a concern about how this is bad for people. That kind of thing. That was well admitted. So things from American Thinker, all this stuff, what really changed everything, and that nobody who's a Democrat, the left wing, because this dude's dead now, was the various people that were starting to show everybody the website World Star Hip Hop, and starting to show the videos that young black people were recording of themselves fighting, quote unquote, fighting people. Well, what these were brutal assaults and batteries. And these would be like 10, 20 a day, either on other black kids or on just almost anybody who is unlucky enough to be near these kids. And a journalist, started to take this information because he was starting to really be like, I keep thinking I'm seeing stuff like this, but then when I try to look for information, because this would seem so egregious, this or that crime would be so egregious that you would think somebody would have covered it, on the local news that night, or this, that, and the other. No, only an odd video posted to the internet that is, that the geolocation is known, or something in some way, shape, or form. It's established. People in the comments are like, oh yeah, that's blah blah high school. This happens every day. Statements like that. Well, this really threw this reporter off. He's like, wait a second. According to the comments, this is happening all the time at this high school, middle school. This is happening all the time at this train station, all over the place, the various things. He started to find out journalist groups were quashing crime stories at the local level. You couldn't get them out of local papers. They would climb no further. They wouldn't get on the local TV. A variety of maybe Fox would cover the crime. Which, of course, then what do the liberals say? That Fox then is always trying to pick out these kinds of videos of, to make black kids look bad, or this, that, the other. And it's like, no, this is an assault and battery. And nobody's reporting on it except for this channel. And it's interesting because now this is a standard way of thinking. And somebody recently posted something that they started to get into who really are these just racist bigots that are making it such that men can't have jobs, that white men are being pushed out of all these different professions. And he's like, no, this is entirely being led by young white women. And none of them have the rational capacity to think that their weird racist way of thinking, that they have to have DEI because of how terrible white men are, that whatever demented shit that was done to these, they're broken. This guy's like, no, this is a cult. They're broken. Well, I'm adding they're broken. And I really do. I think no. From what we are gathering, from looking at how now with the TikTokers, and you give somebody just a few moments to let them explain. See, this again, the liberals didn't know. When the feminists lost the war of everything, by 2015, the feminists had lost every possible debate, all the time, every time on YouTube. They just got crushed like cans, eaten like morsels. I mean, it just they had all their data would be just garbage, and it was from garbage institutes. Logical questions, logical things of if that number's correct, and this would be like, and you would name, it'd be like Zimbabwe, it'd be violence like these places that don't have electricity at night, and there was nothing they could say. They realized how utterly preposterous, but you would see very quickly something would kick in, and Kevin Samuels put it as sign language. Shame, insults, guilt, and then never being wrong. And we all started to spot, because of Ann Barnhart's discussion of the Western man is an effeminate man, and has an effeminate mind. This is why he's cowardly and will not fight evil. And in fact, will try to make deals with the devil over and over and over again, treaties with the devil, because of their effeminacy. And when we started to see it, no, and now it's all over Twitter that liberal men they have nothing other than shame, insults, guilt, and then when you have data that shows no, I mean, really, wherever you got your sources from, I mean, your source is just crap. I mean, because look, logically doesn't pan out. There would be other things it would affect. You would see a third degree effect, fourth degree effect, away from what you're saying, so where is it? And so it was just one of these things where I was like, so they would just never be wrong. it would just say, yeah, you got Nazi science or something, whatever kind of way that they would just dismiss it, so that all criticism is actually dismissed now by the liberals, because they're just being spoken to by illiterate buffoons, and so it really is now, once again, that nobody's getting. No, you see, the beautiful part was what a weird book that got quoted by the men's movement, and it talked about how once the male is not of use to the female, she will typically no longer dwell with him in among animals. So I was like, so what is this book? Only one line's quoted. This can't be just, I mean, who is this guy? I get this book, The Mothers, and it's probably, and I mean, I was into all this matriarchal, once it was a matriarchy, I heard this in college. So finally, when I get this book, and it's about that, and it's about every single thing that we have known about matriarchies. He wrote this in the 60s, but it's very interesting. Somebody then alerts me he's a socialist, and I'm like, okay, interesting, because none of these socialists will mention him. They have forgotten. They have purposefully forgotten that this what this person had written about the nature of pre-civilized societies and matriarchies and such like. So they don't really realize, like, no. And then the stuff that came up when people were talking about race and IQ, and when Charles Murray was trying to speak and gets assaulted by people, well, again, leftists in assault and battery, people who have a higher tendency toward mental illness and physical smallness and assault and battery, and facial asymmetry and assault and battery. And so the people were debating these ideas, but then came in the people who that's their actual field they work in. And a lot of these people, they were like a bit more conservative, but they just aren't racists. And it's because for them, they think of genetics completely different. They think of everything quite differently, because that's their field. So one of the most important of these, because of how vociferous he was a man named J-Man. That's all we know him as. And J-Man was a very important person because of his writings about human biodiversity and genetic behavioralism and evolutionary psychology. And because he really alerted a lot of people to, no, there's, your genetics play, this unbelievably high role in how you're going to end up. This is why proper rearing from your family is so important. This is what I end up, because I don't think he was religious, but I end up having this whole understanding of this is why you have ancestral wisdom. In the martial arts, in Chinese Kung Fu, you are supposed to move like your teacher. The reason you move like your teacher is because you have inherited the ancestral chi. And really a big part of it is that you frame the way that your teacher frames. You move at the same pacing, you move the same timing, and the small nuances of motion. And the idea being it connects you to something older and ancestral. And, so you see, I'm tying all these things together. You see, coffee, pow. See, that's why coffee's so great. I know Cog doesn't approve of it. He doesn't like it. I love coffee. I'm a lunatic. Anyway, so the thing that ends up coming from a lot of this is we start to figure out, yes, this is why you need an extended family around, so that you could compare notes about the past, so that the young can better understand their own future, because they are so much like their family members. Their mentality, their mannerisms. This is why every generation of women say, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother. And it's this, ha ha ha, the boomers did this. Ha ha, it was a joke on every sitcom. Oh, I'm turning into my mother. Oh, ha 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 ha. I can't believe that's like something my dad would say. Ha 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 ha. And everybody would break into laughter. And this is something observed. It's something observed, but people don't like dealing with it because then they don't have total and complete control. They aren't atomized from the universe. Marx was wrong. They are inherently connected. They can never disconnect. The way is like a net. Though its openings are very large, nothing escapes. Was it Indra's diamond net from the Diamond Net Sutra as well. gives this idea. There's a pattern to things. And, but it seems skewed enough that it doesn't repeat, it rhymes. I figure because of the factor of time-space. But hey, that's me waxing a little Pythagorean. Anyway, so, because I don't read. I'm just a right-wing weirdo. I just run on pure hatred and coffee and meat. I'm running all out of coffee. And so the left lost debate after debate after debate. They had to use tricks. Now nobody really respects Destiny as like an intellectual or something like that. It's like he's showing up to a new class all the time and debating the professor. And so people, there's just a lot of people that they're just not interested in dealing with it. They would rather make their long form informational content, like Survive the Jive, and other people who started presenting what do we actually know about prehistoric Europe and things, and that's brilliant. They're like, no, I'm not. I love my history. I love what I am, and so I'm going to conduct a thing on the I'm going to go into the history of it. I finally found more and more decent Black American channels that were on just interesting aspects of history of Black America that you just wouldn't. You don't hear these stories. You don't hear these. Everyone likes the victim stories. Again, now, what is liberalism? It is a structure so that the people who established it, Germanic and Anglo-Saxon women and French, could be safer and have more children. That's it. The men set it up. The women had more kids. Everybody got rich. It worked very well. Now the people are like, well, I don't know about the liberal model because I'm not sure if we want this rather rapacious group of people who really don't belong in our nation state to have such an outsized amount of power. And then, oh my gosh, how could you not want the rapacious people to run your education? How dare you have something that we, the liberals, don't approve of? So like Bukele overwhelmingly voted back in, preventing crime. Oh, but this offends white women in the United States, so it must be a fascist dictatorship. It offends Jewish women who are into journalism and political activism. So this is something everybody started to figure out. The men's movement figured it out. Now you're finding the black men's movement has figured this out. Everybody's figuring out. No. And then has become now this thing of, okay, soon you're going to start getting this. That as soon as the nice democratic process happens and it's understood, okay, no, you've lost. Go to the store, get yourself some applesauce. We've got the BB gun because we won. And then from there, the left is going to make it worse. And then we will have to punish the left. And that's going to be the part that nobody's looking forward to. Like, no one on the right is looking forward to what the fuck are we going to have to do to these people to get them to stop it. Nobody's looking forward to that. The left doesn't know that. They don't read our shit. They don't know shit about us. So they everything is guesswork on their part. Everything is rumor and innuendo and jokes. They have no fucking clue what they're talking about when they're talking about the Republicans or the right of center. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they never cite a single article. They never cite anything but maybe Twitter. because they're not real. The left doesn't have real journalists. It's mostly these lazy allies. I'll just put it as that, lazy allies, quote unquote. And they're lazy. They're intellectually lazy people. So that's all this comes down to now. Is the left has to deceive the remainder of the people who are into their shit, and that's what they're doing now. They're just deceiving people. Like, no, you guys are widely hated across the modern world. Everyone hates your policies. Like, now everybody's understanding, oh no, they do plan to tranny out our sons and starve us into fucking obedience. And everyone's starting to figure out, like, wait a second, there's only so many of these quote-unquote leaders there. New York is facing now also the retirement of so many police. More police in 1 year are going to retire than I think possibly have ever. Early retirement, like, is now the thing in New York. So New York now, even with all the, with everything they're dealing with, what are they doing? They're like, we're going to just give these illegals anything they fucking want, and they won't do anything to deal with the fact that they, within the next 2 to 5 years, are not going to have the requisite police. They're going to have an anemic police force. Their police force will be anemic. This is going to be amazing to see. And there's still, the prices of condos there are still humongo. As Finance Hat's telling everybody, there are still people building things there. Amazing. Chicago, you go and you look around the Loop, buildings, whole buildings on the Loop, 85% off. Things like that, numbers like that you can't believe, that you're like, that can't be, that's not real. Yes, the building is 70-something% off, 80-something% off. A lot of the last of black liberals and black Democrats have to get. You were being active. If it happened in your neighborhood, the story didn't go any farther than one time on the local news. No matter how many died, no matter how many times the local school is shut down because of another fight, no matter what has happened, how egregious do you think people just ignore our plight? No. Journalists actively made sure that stories about crime in black neighborhoods in democratic cities did not get out. And the reason is because of the colleges that are there. It is because they needed to attract the IT companies. And then what that means is then all these people buy up the homes, right? Now you can't, it's getting real expensive, right? Everything's getting real expensive. Yeah, that was the whole point. So that suddenly people who lived in totally normal towns were stinking fucking rich because their house made them rich. Now they could borrow on that. As we see, is this sounding like something you might have heard? Something you might have been seeing over the last few years? Then the cities could borrow on the fact they're like, well, look at all these really smart people who moved in. You know, they're going to be paying taxes for years like a bunch of fucking suckers. And now, is that panning out? No, it's not. So it was short-term thinking. Everybody's acting ghetto. Everybody's acting chintzy, cheap, and ghetto now. Nobody's planning for long-term stable growth and comfort. Nobody wanted to listen to the right wing when they were saying in 2010, 2012, and 2013, you do know that you aren't having enough kids to maintain the electrical grid over the next 30 years, right? You're going to need either a bunch of people to just suddenly magically move here who are all electricians, or you're going to need to start having kids and teach them how to be electricians. And now we are right about that. And everybody's saying that we are right about it. Except they didn't know we were right about it because they didn't read our stuff. And so that is how there will be a magic defeat eventually. And it's going to be a little while longer of this thing called the liberals. Because it's just going to be simply not knowing how to play chess well enough.